Thank you. Hey, everyone, thanks for your time today. My name is Girish Manmadkar. I'm a part of the product management team supporting and working with cloud solutions provider, or we used to call them as VCPP. Today, I'm going to talk about Kubernetes as a service powered by VCF and VCD, which basically is a foundation that you probably heard yesterday under a private AI foundation. So as a part of that, I think discussion, there was something called as a kubeflow VMware edition that was also discussed. So, we see a lot of PowerPoint. So I just thought of tweaking my session today from PowerPoint to the actual real life of running kubeflow on this architecture. So with that said, I think I just wanted to move forward with a few slides and then we'll dig into the actual demo. Have you heard about CSC or Container Service Extension? No? So this is kind of based on cluster APIs powered with Cloud Director. Cloud Director is basically my multi-tenant portal or multi-tenant application, allowing me to have another level of abstraction to really deliver various components of my infrastructure and additional services using Cloud Director. Mostly, it is consumed by VCPP or Cloud Builder or cloud providers globally. We got about 4,000 of them. But essentially, it's idea about there is a view and a control that you have as a provider, and then there is a view you as a customer, because you don't want to spend time and money on managing your infrastructure or services. These type of services can be delivered by the provider, and the provider will have everything managed for you, so that you can focus on your business to run your applications on this particular platform. So there are benefits as a provider when it comes to VCD and CSC. So CSC is like a plugin of flexibility that we brought it into VCD in terms of providing these plugins. So it becomes a plugin into VCD. Essentially, I'll show you. You drop down a menu and you can deploy the tons of Kubernetes clusters seamlessly, right, as a customer. But again, for the providers, it's a simple interface. It's a simple way of delivering it as a service from a UI to the CSC server. So it's a small component that goes into the management cluster called CSC appliance. And basically what we are trying to do with the new architecture based on cluster API, decoupling from the tenant workloads and allowing tenants to do a self-management of those workloads easily. A lot of things have been talked this week about, AI, ML workloads, doing a lot of stuff around it, making sure that VCD is already enabled for the GPU as well. So it allows you to consume GPU. You can build GPU as a service as well, right? And another thing that we have done, like in terms of from the provider point of view, from the operations point of view, to do a lot of syslog forwarding and deliver those type of services. So key components of service extension in a multi-tenant view that you can think about: support server K8 clusters with the release of 1.4 to 1.5 versions and onwards. So a lot of flexibility, and we keep on reinventing the wheel to make sure that we are able to deliver an ability for you to deploy latest and greatest versions of Kubernetes clusters. If you have a customer who wants to be an air gap, absolutely, we have a way to support that, and maybe using proxy or without proxy, you can download those various templates that you want to and deploy it into your VMware Cloud Director and make it available to your customers. High availability is already there, and we can talk about it as we move forward. It is based on VCD and CSC architecture. VCD is already allowing you to have an availability maybe in a multi-site or multi-zones. You can build that availability. Cluster auto-scaling is a key feature. We don't want to have upfront any of your infrastructure to be consumed. We want to make sure that cluster can auto-scale. A cluster is basically my Kubernetes cluster. It is not the infrastructure cluster that we are familiar with. Again, automated health checks are being built, and in-place upgrades are the key aspects of these clusters. So we want to make sure that we work with you as a customer, as a provider, and we bring those functionality into this kind of products. Let us have a look in terms of what Container Service Extension looks like as a provider view and as a tenant view. This may not be clear, but I think if you really look at it, the blue one is basically where I'm hosting all my components in my management cluster, and the light blue colors are basically where I'm consuming it as a tenant. Little bit difficult to interpret this, but I think I'll show you in a demo quickly what it means. As a part of my extensions in VMware Cloud Director, we are able to also deliver various data services. A lot of time, database administrator comes and say, hey, I would like to have a database instance and things like that. So we want to make sure that through VCD, you can deliver a database as a service or various data services that we have. It could be a VMware SQL, NoSQL, RabbitMQ, or Gemfire. We are kind of announcing as well as we move forward with the new additions. If you have a customer who wants to run large language models with NVIDIA, absolutely, you can definitely do it. Greenplum and as well as Kafka. So we are adding more and more features to container service extensions to make sure that the complexity is taken out of your customers or out of your developers' mind. It is all done through delivering it as a service to your end customers. Could be a developer, right? And these are the benefits as a provider. And being an IT could be a provider to your business units, right? Depending on how you do it. So MongoDB, recently we announced it, and definitely you can have the easy way to deploy your MongoDB based on all the automation that we have built in. And again, it has its own open API support, so we are not deviating anything. So there is easy way for you to deploy these services using Container Service Extension, which works with VMware Cloud Director, and it's a TKGM flavor that you can think about. With that said, I'm going to go and switch quickly into my demo. Thank God it's not disconnected. So what you see here, a typical view of a virtual center server, right? And if I click here, that I have a small 4-node cluster deployed. Oh, sorry. Okay, I think, hold on a second. Okay, now I think you can see it. Okay, can you see it? Thank you, thank you. Just want to make sure that I'm complete in 15 minutes with demo. If you look at the screen, which is typically a vCenter server screen that you probably are familiar with, I have a 4-node cluster that I've deployed, and using my TKGM CSC flavor, I'm able to deploy various workloads or clusters. So if you look at it here, I have a cluster deployed as, let me go double click here more. Yeah. So under VMware Cloud, I have ECS large cluster deployed, which has a control plane, and I have worker nodes deployed. Being a small environment is a nested environment for me, so I have to play with those resources, right? So I was able to deploy a Tanzu Kubernetes cluster as a large model, and then using that large model, that cluster, I was able to deploy the Kubeflow, which is the MLOps application that you heard about it yesterday. Do I have GPUs on this? No, this is nested. But the point here is that Kubeflow that you saw yesterday, it is not a paperware. It is actual thing, it is there, and that's the reason I wanted to make sure that you see it to believe it, right? So what I have is a provider view. So provider will have access to a virtual center server. Let me go and show you another view, maybe an application that I wanted to run. I may have it already running here. Yeah. So I'm running it as a tenant, and in the tenant, I was able to deploy a Tanzu Kubernetes cluster. So I am actually what you are seeing on the screen as a tenant, as a customer, as a DevOps engineer with the UI that allows me to deploy a Kubernetes cluster seamlessly. It's taking time because network connectivity is a little bit shaky. Hopefully it goes fine. But until it pops up, what I'm showing it to you on the screen is that I was able to deploy ECS3 large cluster. It's a Kubernetes cluster. There is no application on it, right? So once you deploy this cluster, you can go and configure by downloading the kubeconfig file. Once you download the kubeconfig file, you can attach to this cluster using Power CLI, we're using all the standard commands, and then you can deploy an application as a Kubeflow. So I was given a warning of 2 minutes, so I'm just going to show you what I've done. So what you see here is an application that I was able to run with some use cases here actually. And the execution, if I want to show it to you how it is, yeah, so here you go. So this application is deployed on that cluster, ECS3 large cluster that was deployed. One control plane with 2 worker nodes. I was able to get this Kubeflow deployed within few minutes, less than half an hour actually. If you are familiar with all those kubectl commands and everything, you just have to follow the documentation and you can get it running very, very quickly. So that's a point that the platform that I was talking about is ready for you to deploy and manage AI ML type of workloads seamlessly. As long as you have the GPUs behind the scene, you can expose them to your Tanzu Kubernetes cluster and deploy the applications very, very quickly. If you have any questions, I'll take it offline, but thank you for your time and I hope you are able to get something out of this session. Thank you.